Today we're looking at my water brushes. What up friends, Liron here. Thank you for joining me in another video. As I mentioned, today we'll be looking at my water brushes. I have basically two that I have been using so far. There's the Koi water brush and I have the Fillet by Graphite. I will put a picture here. So this one I got in Paris. This one I believe I got off of eBay. I was sure that I may find that I'll find this one a little better because it's supposed to be a little better, but funny enough it was kind of the same for me. I even enjoyed this one a little more because it's a bit more squishy, but this one's a bit more durable. So what I want us to do is sort of change the angle, take a look at each one of them, talk a bit about water brushes in general. A lot of you know my opinion about it, but it's just fun to talk about and demonstrate at the same time, okay? So let me flip the camera and change the angle and let's get started. Okay, so I have a piece of paper here just so that we can play around with these two and just take a look at how they work. I will start with this one because it's the first one I got, so it just makes a lot of sense to me to start with it. So just some general words about this type of brush. So this, the water brush is what comes with this sort of a container where you can put water, then you can take it with you and you don't really need to carry a cup of water with you or something like this. Usually they are very, very thin and fine pointed pens, synthetic hair, and this shows already a few advantages and disadvantages of this brush. So if you're looking to cover up large spaces, you really can't do that with this one because even the larger ones that I found are pretty small. This is the large one from this specific series. Also the second one, this one is also considered the big one, the large tip. And so don't expect too big of a size. You can, I guess, find really large ones, but you have to look more carefully, I guess. And so this is it. Now, in terms of tips, if I already have both of them here, I'll show you. So this one has a fairly fine tip, and this one, you can see the left one sort of has this flat edge to it. I hope it'll focus. Yeah, okay, we got it. So you can see the tip is a bit flat near the edge. Can't say the same about this one, okay? So this is just one thing to consider in addition to that. Now the water capacity isn't that crazy, okay? I'll tell you that for both of them. So you can't expect it to last as well. You kind of need to carry water with you anyway. Now there are a few advantages to the water in this one because you can kind of make a wash lighter the lower you go or the more you move because you just squeeze it and then water comes out of it. Okay, so I'm just going to demonstrate it here on my disgusting palette, which we will use now. So when I press it, and hopefully you will get to see this. Okay, that took some tries, but here we have it. Here, you can see it drips water. So basically what you do is you can squeeze it, drip some water and mix with that, or you can just do it afterwards. So what I'm gonna do now is just grab some paint off of the palette here. And I'm just gonna fill in the swatches. The swatches are just for just to give you a small demo of the brush itself in action. So maybe even I'll zoom in a bit here. Okay, so let's just fill in one of the swatches here. And you can see a very small capacity. The tip is relatively, it has a spring to it. It has a good spring. So if you want to get some dry effects, you can very easily get it. And I left some space for that specifically. So if I'm gonna pick up just a little more paint here and put it in there, you can see how that blends. But if on the other hand, I'll just release some water in there, you can see you get the bloom. Okay, so when you press it, the just drop of water comes out. Let's try filling up another swatch and just taking a look at the result here. I'm gonna use a bit more green this time. There we go. This time we'll fill it up a little more cleanly. So there you have it. Let's grab some more paint here and darken this around the bottom. So you can see it's very interesting the way this brush works with the cold pressed paper like this one, that you can really get the dry effect fairly easily because it's such a springy tip. I find that when the tip has a little more spring to it, it just sort of becomes flat easier on the paper. But I could be wrong about this, by the way, because sometimes tips that are really let's say gentle and kind of stay the way you put them, sometimes they produce also this rough texture, so can't be really sure about that. So now I'm taking a bit more of that sort of quinacridone rose. I'm gonna fill in this one. And you can see, and this is considered again large, and so even if you're working on this kind of piece of paper, which is maybe around 5 on 7 inches, so you can see it's already a bit too large. It's just perfect for thumbnails and small stuff like this. Okay, now one point I do want to make that it is pretty small, but it's great for details. So this is what I actually use it for, just for the finer details of a painting. So now I'm going to grab some French ultramarine, and I'm just going to fill up this small sort of thumbnail and press and get some more water coming out of it. And by pressing, you can see it just adds a little more water to the surface of the paper. I'm just gonna create this very simple view here. I'm gonna get this kind of transition into the first layer of mountains or whatever it is. I'm gonna get it fairly blended together with that first one, with that first sort of sky thing. I'm gonna get it a bit wet and wet here. And the next step I want to do is actually fill it up all the way to the bottom. And this is where you'll see the limitations of this kind of brush, that it really can't produce too large of a wash very easily. Okay, so I'm just gonna grab some paint, let it all run kind of downwards together, and you can see it's really a lot of work just to fill in this small of a space. So this is one thing to be aware of. Currently, what I use it for mainly is just getting some finer details. So if I have only one rigger at the moment, just because I wasn't that big on it in the past, so what I'll do is actually use this one as a rigger brush just to get those finer details. It's not exactly, it doesn't function exactly the same, but it still functions pretty well. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is let this area dry a bit, and we're gonna look at the second water brush. There isn't really, again, a real difference between the two, but this one can cover a bit of a larger space because it's a bit more flat near the edge. So let's start here with some blue again. Just gonna grab some of it. It's been a while since I just painted inside because I'm so used to now painting outside. So anyway, you can see here, it's filling it up with some French ultramarine, and you can see how it covers it a little more easily because it has this tip that's a little larger. Okay, so if you're looking for a larger one, I would get maybe this one, the fillet. And if you hold it sideways, you can get a thin line. So these do come in some varieties. So don't let that scare you away, just the fact that it's very thin, like this one, the koi. They come in flats, they come in a few other variations. Let's pick up just some of the quinacridone rose and fill up this swatch, and you can see you can really get a bit of a thicker area with this one. Let's leave some for the dry brush here. Maybe fill up the top part with just a bit of a stronger glaze, or rather just wet and wet. And there you have it. This is what it looks like. Let's try maybe picking up some yellow just to make it a little more interesting here. A little bit of dead muted yellow. And again, with this one, you can get the water out just like with the first one. I would say that with this one, it comes out a little more easily because this area is a little less squishy. So even a small squeeze will really produce a darker, a larger amount of water. Okay, so this is one thing that this one excels in, I guess. So you can see how just it can create beautiful results, really good for small areas. Let's now do the same thing here with this sort of small thumbnail-ish painting. I'm gonna just grab here some paint. Gonna keep it a little lighter this time for sky. So I get this color, and then I'm gonna just put in some more water from the brush. I'm going to cover everything up. And maybe let's just continue moving downwards like this. Maybe I'm gonna grab next some sap green. Let it blend a bit. Gonna get some burnt sienna just to have a bit of a feeling of maybe wheat fields with some of the yellow. You can see how, again, the surface of the paper really comes through with this one, and this is something to take into consideration. Perhaps it's better to keep this, the use of this brush in particular to hot pressed paper, I guess, because yeah, the capacity also is of the water is so small that with cold pressed paper you need some wet washes to really cover up the surface without having the texture show everywhere you just put a brush. And so I will recommend maybe using this one with hot pressed paper, unless you want to get that cool effect if you're using it instead of a rigger brush like I do, which is the reason why I even started using it like that. So anyway, now we can the top part is dried a bit, so maybe I'll go back to the first one and just finish this off. I'm gonna grab some darker mixture, maybe add some sepia in there, and you can see I'm really improvising here. I'm not trying to make anything that's too crazy beautiful, so I'm just gonna use this super dark, turns out to be, mixture. I'm gonna make it a little weaker. Fill in that area. Maybe get some of the water off of here. Get a bit of a stronger mix. And there we go. All the way to the bottom. And just the fact that we glaze, even if I use a similar mixture like earlier, just the fact that I glaze over makes it a lot darker, okay? And for the next one, I'll just make this bottom one, but maybe let's fade off some of the bottom of this wash. So I just put in some clear water, pick up some of the paint. I'm really abusing the paper right now in the paint because it's just a small thumbnail. As you can see, you don't really have to be scared of it. It's really just something you do for fun or for study or for practice, and you can really let go here and do whatever you want. This one is already nearly dry, so I can just basically go in and put some trees. I'm just gonna use, I don't even know, I'm just improvising with the colors here as well, so I'm just gonna put in some sort of gray, sad trees here. Maybe add a bit of green. Really being free here. Doing the same here in the background. Maybe add some shadows to the trees. Some grass, things like this. And you can see how this works. This is a very, very unique type of brush that has its uses. So for me, I'll just conclude. As I mentioned already, I use this one just more as a rigger brush, or maybe to get the fine details because it's very thin, maybe to bring out the surface of the paper because it's relatively, it has some spring to it. You can see it returns to its position fairly easily. So that's a good thing to bring out the texture of the paper. And this is it. So it is good for some uses. I wouldn't recommend not using it at all. If you're doing small thumbnails, it can work. And yeah, this is it. Let's wait for this one to dry. I don't know if, maybe I'll just end with the final glaze and then we'll change the angle and wrap this video up. Okay, so it's dry now and I can just go ahead and do one final kind of darker, maybe a bit warmer wash. I'm gonna add some quinacridone rose and a bit of French ultramarine. And gonna make it very, very dark. And just come here, and the paper really, really buckled because of the tons of water that I put in there. By the way, that's my phone, it's on vibrate, sorry about the noise. It will be over in a moment. I just won't answer because I'm in the middle here. So anyway, yeah. And there you have it. You can see this sort of a gradual movement from the things in the distance and towards us. Not necessarily the best depth, but it just goes to show you just a basic demonstration of how to use these pens, these water brushes, just like basically any other brush, okay? So let me change the angle and wrap this video up. So friends, I hope you enjoyed the review and demo of both of these. Feel free to check them out, try them out. As you can see here, this one, all of this experimentation dropped it to maybe about the middle. This one also something similar, it has most of the water still retained in it. As I mentioned, I found the uses that make these good for me. They may be a little unconventional or just as a replacement for something else, like I mentioned the rigger brush, things like this. You can definitely find the things with which these are helpful to you. I know a lot of people have been mentioning that they really use these extensively and really enjoy them, so if you can get them to work for you in your style, in your method of work, definitely don't let anything stop you. And this is it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, follow me on Snapchat and Instagram, and I will see you again in another video tomorrow.